with another crochet project, which is the same project from previous video. Actually didn't get too far. I got to the point where I'm doing front post double crochet, and just all around. And I'm gonna be doing that for the next 7 rows. We can count here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm on the 4th row right now. I am going to be continuing that all around, and the pattern is in description as usual. Today's story takes us to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Our story is about a very, very successful attorney who got murdered, and the mystery behind her disturbing murder. Let's get started. Chiquita Tate was born on October 15th of 1975 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. She was one of 7 siblings. Chiquita was mostly raised by her grandparents in an impoverished area of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. As a child, Chiquita was very strong-willed and analyzed everything. Her family and friends would joke and say that she would make a good attorney someday because she would always debate on everything and forever. She also loved to argue with everyone in the family. She was a very intelligent and driven student and was actually the first person in her entire family to go to college. Chiquita earned her bachelor's degree in English from Clark Atlanta University in Atlanta, Georgia. After completing her bachelor's degree, Chiquita moved back to Baton Rouge to pursue her Juris Doctorate degree from Southern University Law Center. Chiquita was sworn in as an attorney in October of 2004, and this is where she began her solo practice, concentrating on the field of criminal law in 2005. Prior to going to law school, she worked as a teacher in Timbuktu Academy at Southern University, where she went to school, and she also worked as a legal assistant for Judge Pamela Taylor Johnson. When Chiquita became an attorney, she was loved by many. She fought hard and diligently for her clients. She believed in justice for everyone, and she wanted to represent vulnerable people because she was herself from an impoverished place. And I think that's very admirable. She was a criminal defense attorney, so many of her clients were very dangerous people. There were murderers, drug dealers, but Chiquita believed that everyone deserves an attorney. She was successful of getting justice for many of her clients and was even awarded $500,000 in one of the personal injury cases. She was described as extremely brave and tenacious by her family. She was dedicated to her clients and was quickly making a name for herself in the innocent, yet you as their attorney still need to defend them. Chiquita opened her own law firm eventually, and she also hired her sister Danita to work for her in this law firm. Chiquita had a temper, and I think that, in my opinion, you need to have a temper to be a criminal defense attorney, or any attorney for that matter. But her sister Danita even said that Chiquita had such a temper that she would get into fights with her all the time at work and would fire her almost every single week. But then she would cool down and call her in the evening when she would fire her and ask her to come back to work the next day after apologizing to her. In late 2007, Chiquita met a contractor by the name of Gregory Harris. And how they met is they were both driving on the highway in Baton Rouge, and Greg cut Chiquita off in a car. This really made Chiquita mad, and she began to aggressively honk at Gregory. Then they both came to a red light and looked at each other and smiled. Turned out to be love at first sight. So their relationship started from a road rage incident, and not long after they began dating, Chiquita moved in with Greg. This is when Chiquita told her boss, Judge Pamela Taylor Johnson, that she had met the greatest guy and she's in love. And she asked the judge if she can perform their marriage. So everything was happening extremely fast. They moved in together after a few weeks, and now they were thinking of getting married. However, it seemed like they both had a temper and constantly had arguments inside their house before even getting married. In fact, a few days before they were planning to get married, Chiquita called 911 on Gregory. This was on December 22nd of 2007. She called crying and asked the dispatch for help. She said that her fiancé beat her to the point that she thought that her arm was broken. Allegedly, Chiquita said that Greg grabbed her finger and she took off her ring and threw it at him in his face. And this is when Greg started choking her. This really sounds like a very serious altercation and not just a simple marital disagreement. Both Chiquita and Greg were arrested after this incident. However, Chiquita's charges were eventually dropped, and I'm not even sure why she was arrested in the first place, because it seems like she was the victim in this situation. But maybe in that moment the police didn't know who attacked who, so they just took them both into custody. Greg and Chiquita still applied for their marriage license on January 10th of 2008, which was only 2.5 weeks after the domestic violence situation. They got married on February 8th of that year. Greg pled not guilty on a domestic violence incident on March 6th of 2008. However, he also didn't show up for the pre-trial conference that was held on May 8th of 2008, and therefore a warrant was issued for his arrest. So he pretty much made more problems for himself that could have been easily avoided. Not sure what he was thinking not showing up to court after pleading not guilty. On the evening of February 19th, 2009, Chiquita was working in her office in downtown Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and actually she was preparing for a double murder trial that was supposed to start the following Monday. So very serious business. I think the attorney job is such a hard job in general because you don't really have a 9 to 5. You always have to be on call. You always have to be working. Doesn't matter if it's a weekend. You never have a specific time, because if there's going on around 6 in the morning. On the morning of February 20th, he called 911 because he couldn't get into the building where Chiquita's office was. As he was on a phone with dispatch, he was actually able to flag down a passing by police car. And he explained to the officer that he is worried for his wife's well-being because she didn't come home at all that night. The officer entered the building and found Chiquita's lifeless body in her office. She had been stabbed 43 times, including a fatal wound to the neck. Chiquita was laying down on the floor in her office, and it was obvious that there was a fight going on there, and Chiquita fought for her life. There were books and papers laying all over the office. It also appeared that Chiquita tried to use a law book for self-defense because it was laying next to her, and she had self-defense wounds all over her arms, and she had scratches everywhere. Investigators also found long strands of black hair in her hand. However, the weird thing is that the hair didn't look like she pulled it out herself. It looked like it was just placed there after she had already died. There were no footprints and no blood was found outside of her office. There was also no murder weapon at this scene. Chiquita was still wearing her expensive jewelry. However, her wallet was missing. So it didn't really look like the motive was to rob her because they would have taken all the expensive jewelry. Detectives created a timeline of Chiquita's last hours, what they think happened. She went to court on February 19th, and afterward she even spoke to the press about the upcoming trial, and then she returned to the office to continue working. Chiquita's assistant Leslie Hofkin left the office at around 5:30 p.m. Chiquita said to her assistant that she was gonna stay a little bit longer to finish up some of her work. Chiquita also called Greg around 7 p.m. and asked him if he could bring her McDonald's to eat because she got really hungry. Greg picked up McDonald's and then he went to her work, entered the building, and they ate together. Greg said that he noticed that when he came in, there were a lot of people that were still working inside the building because there was a lot of different law offices there and they were all working late. Greg also helped Chiquita by bringing some money to one of her clients downstairs and then picking up some paperwork from that client and bringing it back up to Chiquita upstairs. At around 8:30 p.m., Chiquita told Greg to go home as she still needs to see one more client and then she's gonna work some more and she should be back later in the evening to their house. And Greg stated that he just went home after this. So at this point, it just seems like he is being a really helpful and good husband. There were CCTV cameras outside of the building. However, the camera that was closest to Chiquita's office was not working because of a recent storm. So, not really helpful. Greg's family expressed concerns about Chiquita's dangerous clients because they were all accused of very violent crimes. So they theorized that Chiquita had angered somebody with her temper and they might have not liked that. And she might have angered them so much that they wanted revenge and went after her. Detectives thought that it was unlikely because Chiquita worked really hard for her clients decided to look in her clients list to see if they can establish alibis for all of them. It was found that 2 clients that she was representing for the upcoming trial, 2 brothers, they were both in jail, so it was pretty easy to verify where they were and their alibis. When investigators began looking into Chiquita and Greg's marriage, they found that the marriage wasn't very perfect at all, and in fact they were always fighting and had so many issues. Chiquita threatened to divorce Greg multiple times within just that 1 year of their marriage. Also, they found that Chiquita signed a lease for an apartment on her own name, and she also paid 3 months of lease in advance for that apartment. It was also discovered that Greg was having a lot of financial problems. Chiquita's sister Danita said that she knows her sister, and because of her temper and because how Chiquita was, Danita said that she probably didn't want to compromise in their marriage, in their relationship, and wanted everything her way. But compromise is always essential in a healthy relationship, I think. Greg's family allegedly stated that the couple had a lot of problems in their relationship and were always arguing due to Chiquita's crazy work schedule. She was pretty much never home. Detectives looked into the domestic violence incident of 2007, and they saw that Greg had an outstanding warrant. I'm not sure why it was still outstanding after a year or more, I think. This is when Greg told the detectives that yes, he did have a warrant because he forgot to show up to court that day. But these records immediately began to ring alarm bells for detectives. So Greg was arrested on February 21st, 2009, a day after Chiquita's body was found, and he was arrested for battery, domestic violence, and failure to appear in court. This allowed investigators to hold Greg in jail during the early phase of the investigation. So it was perfect. And then during this time, while he was incarcerated, there was a break in the case. A woman called police to report that she had found Chiquita's wallet on Cartier Lane. And Cartier Lane is a crime-ridden area in Baton Rouge. The woman said that when she found the wallet, she recognized Chiquita by her face in the ID because Chiquita actually visited her daughter's school in the past to present there. And she also said that she saw about the murder of her on the news. However, the ID, credit cards, and cash were still inside the wallet. And it really puzzled the detectives because this area was very high crime rate and nobody took this wallet, so it must have not been there long. Also, her wallet was Gucci brand, so it was really odd that, nobody took it. Investigators believed that the killer planted the wallet there in this high crime area in hopes that someone will find it and use the credit cards from the wallet and lead the investigators to believe that that was the person who killed Chiquita. Then investigators questioned Greg again, and this time they told him that they actually saw a different surveillance camera showing that he actually took the other way home, and that they found his car and a different surveillance camera passing by this Cartier Lane, the high crime area. Of course, this was a lie, but investigators were just trying to probe him at this point. This is when Gregory Harris admitted to taking a different route, and he said that yes, he did go to Cartier Lane that night, but he said that he was buying illegal steroids from someone, so that's why he was there. So his story changed from the beginning, and that's never good in a murder investigation. I mean, this gave investigators to suspect him even more now. Greg denied having any recent issues in their marriage, and he stated that they were working through their problems. He also allegedly said that he had never heard Chiquita before. During this investigation, the detectives received an anonymous tip from a caller who stated that they know that Chiquita was in a love triangle with 2 female clients, and police was able to track down those 2 clients. The clients confirmed that they had a strictly professional relationship with Chiquita. Police then traced where the call came from this anonymous tipper, and found that the call came from Greg's sister's phone. Why did she call in this false tip? When questioned, the sister said that she never actually called, but police was now thinking that Greg's family is helping him take away the suspicion that was on Greg right now. His dad was helping him, his sister. Everyone's involved. Of course, Greg's family could not believe that Greg could be involved in this murder, and even Chiquita's sister Danita was very doubtful of Greg being the killer. Then Greg's father came to the police station and said that his daughter was not trying to throw police off with her tip when she called in. It was actually him who told her about the situation, that he heard this from another attorney who worked with Chiquita. Even though the sister continued denying that she ever made this call, but now it was obvious that she knew something about it, so it was kind of weird and twisted, and it was not adding up now. Who is telling the truth? It should be noted also that when Greg was first interviewed, he had all sorts of scratches and bruises on his arms. Around the same time, DNA testing from the crime scene was completed, and it was found that the hairs that Chiquita had in her hand were actually not even real hair. It was synthetic and came from extensions, hair extensions. But this still suggested a possibility of a female killer. The lab also found DNA evidence from Greg and another unknown male under Chiquita's fingernails. On March 4th of 2009, police executed a search warrant on Greg's home and his car. Detectives didn't find much evidence at the house where Greg and Chiquita lived, but they did find a bottle of Clorox with small visible spots of blood on the handle. A box of hair extensions, very similar to the hairs that were found in Chiquita's hand, was found under the bed. Inside a closet, police found a recording device with a recording of Chiquita and Greg arguing, and it sounded like they were talking about divorce. They were screaming at each other, and in this recording they were also dividing their furniture, who gets what. Detectives also sprayed luminol everywhere in the house and found traces of blood all over the house, even in the closet and in the laundry room. In Greg's car, they found a pair of safety glasses under the seat, and it had a little bit of blood in it. The lab found that it was both Chiquita and Greg's blood on both the Clorox bottle and the glasses. It was a mixture of their blood. Greg was charged with second-degree murder and illegal use of a dangerous weapon on March 16th, 2009. And that's actually random fact, but it's my grandma's birthday. Greg was actually in court that day for a traffic violation, and he was taken into custody thinking that he was gonna get released that day. But that's when the detectives found these evidences and to charge him with murder to keep him in jail. So Greg was indicted for second-degree murder on April 9th of 2009. However, he immediately bonded out. However, he was immediately rearrested for a stolen property charge. But Greg was also able to post bond on those charges and was released to await trial. 2 days later, after he bonded out, Greg called police to report that someone tried to kill him. So police came to investigate, and it was found that bullet shots were fired at his house at around 3 a.m. and there were bullet holes in the headboard of his bed and in his window. Greg's father also reported to the police that Greg told him that someone came to Greg's window, and this was around 3:30 a.m. and shot in the bedroom window about 10 times with a 10mm gun. I'm not sure how he would know what kind of gun it was, but that's what the father said. This person was hoping that Greg was in bed. However, Greg so happened to be sleeping on a couch that night. Prosecutors believed that Greg staged the attack in order to throw police off. Greg's murder trial started on March 22nd, 2011. Prosecutors told the jury that Greg had the motive to kill his wife. He wanted to kill her because she was planning to leave him. Also, the fact that Greg had a history of control issues, not just with Chiquita but with his previous ex-girlfriends, made it more suspicious. So if Chiquita divorced him, he could no longer control her. The prosecution argued that Greg placed the hairs in Chiquita's hand to make it look like someone else had done it, and it was a female. Also, he then threw away her wallet in a crime neighborhood in hopes that someone would take it. Moreover, he then staged the attempted murder at his home. Greg's attorney argued that there wasn't enough evidence for a conviction. Prosecutor Brim Burns complained that Greg's attorney was buffling around the courtroom like everyone else is stupid and he is the smartest attorney there. So there was a little bit of tension between the prosecutor and the defense attorney, as in any trial, I would assume. Greg's attorney said that the prosecutor is just afraid of the evidence. The jury was shown photos of the bleach bottle inside the home with blood stains on it, but the defense argued that the blood was old and could have been there long before the murder happened. Might have been from a cut finger. Jury also watched the interrogation when Greg kept saying that he didn't kill his wife, and then he removed his shirt and undershirt and said to the police that they should send it to the lab for a test. And he said that if they find Chiquita's blood on his shirt, then he will be going down. So the lab found Greg's blood on his shirt, but there was no Chiquita's blood there. But who knows if he changed the shirt or not, because this was hours and hours later. It was like almost 24 hours later when they started interrogating him. So he probably changed into other clothes already. Chiquita's assistant testified that Chiquita often told her about the marital problems she was having, and she even told her that she was tired of being married. 2 of Greg's ex-girlfriends testified, stating that he was physically abusing them when they were in a relationship with him. On October 9th, 2011, the jury convicted Greg of manslaughter. It was such an outburst in the courtroom, and everyone was so shocked that one person even got arrested after this conviction. Prosecutor later told the jury that she had no doubt that Greg was the killer. then it turned out that jury actually didn't know that manslaughter and second-degree murder is not the same thing, and they didn't carry the same penalty. When they found out that it didn't mean the same thing, some of the jury members even started crying because they felt like they should have charged them with second-degree murder instead. I would assume that they would have to be explained the definition of everything before making their decision, so I'm not sure how some of them didn't know. Prosecutor later gave an interview for WAFB and stated that the system let Chiquita down. And she said, "The system that I've spent 36 years in let her down." The defense attorney said that the jury was explained about the difference between manslaughter and second-degree murder, but they weren't explained about the penalty for the responsive verdict. Prosecutors also argued that Chiquita had $60,000 in life insurance policy, which was most likely another motive because Greg was the beneficiary. On the night of the murder, Greg also called his boss to ask for an advance from his 401k, and the boss pretty much told him that it wouldn't be possible. His attorney said that Greg had no reason to kill Chiquita because he had so much going for him, and also Greg didn't want to admit about going to Cartier Lane on the night of the murder because he was buying something illegal. But what are the chances that he just so happened to be on the street buying something illegal on the same street where her wallet was found? Gregory Harris was sentenced to 40 years in prison on September 30th of 2011. He got a maximum penalty for a manslaughter. He, however, appealed on November 12th of 2011, but his appeal was denied. Greg's attorney alleged that the deceased brother of one of Chiquita's clients was the killer because of the witness statements. His name was Donald Dahart, and he died in 2013. And it was also found that several witnesses from the trial that Chiquita was working on before her death were also killed mysteriously. And the charges for the two brothers that were on that trial were dismissed also mysteriously. Also, it was found that the brothers, the two Hart brothers, the clients of Chiquita, knew that they could get a continuance of the trial if their attorney was killed, which could have been the motivation for murder. Chiquita Tate was only 34 years old when she was unfortunately murdered. What do you guys think? Do you think that husband did it? Was there enough evidence? I don't know if there was enough evidence. But then again, it's always the spouse. 90% of the time. But also, there's so many innocent people that get put to prison for just being there. So all they had was mostly circumstantial evidence. Just, him being in the same area where her wallet was found. Do you guys think that the manslaughter charge was appropriate or not? He will be around in his late 70s when he gets out, if he does get out. Most likely he will be out on parole soon. If he did kill her though, I think that it was premeditated murder. There was no food See you later.